Hello and welcome to the Chaddy Enders, where each week I sit down with a former player, manager, member of staff, or somebody associated with Oldham Athletic Football Club to take a look back at their time at Boundary Park. Thank you very much for tuning in. I'm David Broadbent. As always, I'd like to thank our three fantastic sponsors, Wayne and the team at AC Tyres. We have got James and NFL Weekends, and we've got Rick at Eden Creative, all Latics fans and all doing great things. Check them out on their social media channels. You can get them at AC Tyres, at NFL Weekends, or at Eden Creative UK. We're also on social media, on Facebook and on Twitter. So if you've got any questions you'd like to put to any of our guests, or any requests for future guests, the people you'd like to see come on, then we are at the Chaddy Enders on Facebook and Twitter. So please do get in touch. Moving on to this week's podcast. So we bring you players, we bring you managers, and this week we bring you a giant furry owl. This week's podcast guest never played a game for Latics, but was on the pitch a lot. He spent many years playing Chaddy the Owl, and he definitely has some stories to tell. He might use one or two naughty words if you're easily offended, but they're only mild ones. He's not gone nuts or anything. But it's great to have him and to look back at the man behind the mask. A massive welcome to the Chaddy Enders, Wayne Hurst. Wayne, thank you very much for taking the time to join us. I guess the first question has got to be, how does someone decide they want to be Chaddy the Owl?
Basically, remove your brain. You've got to have a few screw looses to attempt to dress as a giant owl and run around, much to the amusement of others. But yeah, it's to be honest, I at the time when Kev left under a bit of a cloud, I'd just started taking my lad Christopher to his first games, and he'd have been probably just under 2, and all he was fixated on was the big owl. That's all he wanted to talk about. That's all he was just fixated with it. So as soon as Kev ended up giving it up, loads of people said to me, "You're stupid not to do something like that." And I went, yeah, go on then. So that was it. I put in the application.
What was the interview process for it? Was there an interview process? Is that a daft question? Who did it and all that?
So it was Sean Jarvis, Big Gordon, and Christine, who used to run the shop. I expected, when I got the call to say come down and see us, I expected to go down. It'd just be me sat there, and they'd just go, right, put that on, let's see what happens. There was about, I reckon there was about 15, 20 people who were all there, and we were taking it in turns. You had to have a chat with somebody first, then you had to dress as Chaddy, and you had to go out on the pitch, and they had you doing an assault course. You were sprinting up and down. And then as I was coming back, Gordon says to me, "Can you do a front flip?" I was like, "Do I look like I can do a front flip?" Then he said, "Right, just go down there and you've got to G up the crowd, the Chaddy end, as though it's full." And obviously it was empty because it was not a match day. And I just went, "Well, it looks like normal, to be honest." So I think he got my sense of humour. And then I had to go back into a room with Christine and Sean and just talk about myself and my sense of humour, and they wanted to know things like, what's the funniest thing I've ever been involved in, what's the funniest thing I've ever seen, and I had them cracking up, and then got the call to say, yeah, you got the job.
I can't help but think that was just Gordon and Sean on a complete wind-up of making people do stuff on the pitch.
Absolutely, yeah. But one thing I didn't realise at the time, obviously you see Chaddy and he's running around. I didn't realise until I put the suit on that first time just how hot it is inside. It is ridiculous. There's a reason I put so much weight on since I stopped being Chaddy. I think I just sweated it all out of
me. Do you remember much about your first game? Can you remember who it was against and what have you?
Yeah. So I actually started, I got the suit on 31st of October 2004. Put it on because next door neighbour had a Halloween party that night. I thought it'd be hilarious if I just put the suit on and just walked into the house. Everyone's drinking and going like, what the hell's going on here? Who's this weirdo? And then I had to go and do my first ever appearance was for Children in Need in Royton, at the Chinese restaurant in centre of Royton. And I just got absolute pummeled. There was about 200 kids and they filled me in good and proper. So yeah, it was a bit of a welcome to the world of Chaddy. And then my first actual game was Barnsley at home. We won 2-0 and Stitch was manager at the time. And he come up to me in the tunnel before the game and he was just like, you okay, you ready for this? First game. I was absolutely bricking it. And then I walked out and it was just, everything changed. It was just, as soon as the kids come up to you and you know, they don't know who you are, so you're just Chaddy. And yeah, just the nerves went like that. And then that was it. The whole new persona was born.
Did you get any sort of guidelines from the club, any sort of do's and don'ts? I suspect you had, knowing them both quite well, I suspect that Sean Jarvis and Alan Hardy were probably two very different influences on you as Chaddy.
Yeah, absolutely bang on. Sean just said, go out, have an absolute laugh, just, you know, do what you want, wind people up. There's not really any rules. Alan laid down quite a few rules for me. The main one being, you know what happened to Kev and what he was up to. Don't do the same. Because, yeah, it caused a bit of bad publicity, but great publicity for Chaddy at the time.
And, I mean, usually we do these things in time order, but now this leads us on perfectly to tell us about some times where you got actually in bother as Chaddy. Because I can remember one or two occasions that maybe you were called to the office once or twice.
Yeah, Alan's pulled me out the crap quite a few times, to be honest. There's a fair few incidents that people know about. There's also a few that a lot of people didn't know about because Alan was so good at his job. He kept it out of the know. Probably the worst ones were, I'd say, Doncaster away when I got arrested for mooning the Doncaster fans when we scored. But obviously, when you pull the shorts down, it's a mesh suit. So, and that was my argument to the police. But this copper just didn't see the funny side, and he's got me in the tunnel, and he's told me I'm being arrested. And Alan happened to walk past and was just like, "What are you doing?" And he just said, "You need to let him go now." So they let me go, but they threw me out. But they actually threw me out the stadium, and I didn't have my clothes. So I'm just stood outside the stadium like this, dressed as Chaddy, and these kids walking past. And anyway, I managed to convince this woman to let me go back in, get me clothes. And I just went and sat down at one of the pubs down the road waiting for my mates to come out. And then the only other proper one where this one didn't really get out, and there was only Alan really knew about this, but it was Huddersfield away, and I think it was about 2008. And we absolutely took over the ground. The noise was unbelievable from the away end. So I always try to stick to the away end when I'm at another team's ground. But there was a little kid just near. So as you'll know what Huddersfield, when you look at the away end to the left hand side, they're quite close to the pitch.
Yep.
On your left hand side, and there was a little kid who wanted me to come over. He was waving, and so I was like, okay, I'll go and say hello. So anyway, I'm ruffling his hair, shaking his hand, and then his dad gripped me, and he went, "If he stab you," I was like, "What?" And then he lifted his arm, so I thought, I've got to get the first dig in. So I just cracked him. Next thing you know, I'm in the tunnel, and the police are like, "Right, you're under arrest," and they were frog marching me down. But Alan come in and just went, "Right, you need to let him go. He's done this in self-defense." So yeah, I got off with that one.
So of course, Chaddy spends a lot of time on the pitch. So did you build up some relationships with players? Were some players that sort of got it, some players that didn't get it?
There was more players that got it than didn't get it. I can only think of one player that I actually didn't get on with, and that was Philippe Moraes. And obviously there was an incident at weekend work there where one of his teammates had butted him. Not shocked by that. He's a proper wind-up merchant, but he was quite nasty with it. And you can get people, as a bloke walking down the street, if I knew that there was a bloke inside a suit who was coming dancing at the side of me and messing about, I'd be going, yeah, he's a bit of a weirdo. But you're there for the kids, so most people got it, and the players that got it the most were the ones who had kids, because the kids just loved Chaddy. That's what it was about. So Paul Warren got on really well with him, and his lad, it's called Max. He was fixated with Chaddy when he was younger. But yeah, I've got on with most players. There's been certain ones where I've got on more with them because they play golf, so I've gone out and played golf with them and stuff. But that's about it. Yeah, Clipper used to take money off me for
fun. And Chaddy, of course, goes to away games or goes to some away games. How does it work at away games? Do clubs sort of look after you, or do you sort of go and meet their mascot and then they look after you for the day? How does that work? Are there some clubs that are better at it than others?
Yeah, so in I'll say the mascot world, we all interact with each other, so we all have everyone's phone number. You know which grounds are going to accept you, which ones are good. Doncaster, apart from that incident with the mooning and being dragged off, Doncaster, when they moved to the new stadium, were absolutely bang on. They were unbelievable for looking after mascots. You'd go in and you'd be getting drinks and food. They'd have you sat there waiting. They'd have somebody make sure that all your belongings were looked after. There's been other grounds like Chesterfield where I've turned up and they've gone, that's your changing room there, and it was a portaloo right in full view of all the fans, and I just went, I weren't being a diva, I just went, I'm not getting changed in there. I said, no, you need to provide me something. You're stripping down because it's that warm. You're stripping down to next to nothing underneath. You can't just be stood in some portaloo or whatever. But yeah, you tend to know which ones are going to be all right. There's certain grounds that just don't allow them. Liverpool, forget it. Don't even ask. A lot of the big Prem clubs, I know that they have issues with allowing people, but yeah, most of them are absolutely cracking. They always look after you.
And in terms of looking after mascots at Oldham, were there any that you when they came to Boundary Park were there any that you really did get on with, or any that you really didn't get on with?
Well, Lofty the Lion from Bolton, what a knobhead he is. he was actually paid to be a mascot, so he did it as a living. And remember when we played City and we in the FA Cup, I thought it'd be funny to invite like about 10 mascots down and we'll do a penalty shootout at half time. So everyone was getting ready. We were all in the same room. We had Lenny from City Gent from Bradford. Who else did we have? Captain Blade from Sheffield United. Moonchester, who's a great mate. So all these mascots who were all having a right laugh and we were getting changed and just winding each other up. And then when we're ready to go out, Lofty the Lion sat there and he brought I think it was his daughter with him. But she wouldn't let anyone talk to him. She was proper weird. Yeah, definitely an hard drive needs checking there. But he sat there and he's brushing the hair of the mascot. And I said, and we're all ready. I'm like, are we going out? And he just went, she said, Lofty goes out when Lofty is ready. I went, Lofty's getting locked in the room. Then I just pulled the door to. I just didn't like the guy. But loads of others, I'll get on cracking with all of them, to be honest.
One of the, I was going to say perks, but I'm not sure if it's a perk or not, of being Chaddy, the Mascot Grand National. So for anyone that doesn't know, that is sort of, I don't think they do it anymore, but every year all the mascots would gather at a racecourse and essentially just cause carnage for a bit. How were those experiences for you?
Yeah, they were great experiences. Expensive, because a lot of mascots would be, they'd be down there for the weekend and the club would pay for their accommodation and food and drink. Obviously, I'm from
and you
Latics,
were representing Oldham, yeah.
yeah. There was no paying for hotels or anything like that. But he tended to do like a full weekend of it because that's just what it was about. So you have like the main races. You have the used to have like the pancake race in Manchester, and that was quite a big one. Mascot Olympics in Milton Keynes, that was a massive one, and you get huge crowds there. But everyone really knows about the Cheltenham races. But it didn't spoil it for me, but the previous Chaddy, Kev, was known for his sprinting. Now, what you don't know is Kev would drive down the night before, sleep over in his car, get up, do all his stretches, be ready for the race. He really prepared, and he was an absolute athlete. Me, on the other hand, go down the night before, get there, throw the bags in the room, and go out drinking with all mascots and just cause absolute carnage wherever we went. And there's been times where we've gone back to the room at like 7 o'clock, and we were getting picked at 7 in the morning, and then we were getting picked up at 9 o'clock in the morning to go to the race. So a couple of races were difficult, but we had one year we'd all gone down, and the hotel where we stayed, and the people who organise it kind of tell you which hotel to go and stay at, and they picked this hotel for us, and we all went down, and it was just bedlam. They were just running riot, and we were all walking. We're talking about 9:30, 10 o'clock. We're walking back through the lobby, and someone said, "Is that over there?" We saw this woman going past in a wedding dress. Someone pops her head in. They went, "It's a wedding." So that were it. Right, okay, everyone, 10 minutes, all up to the room, all got changed and come down and just raided this wedding, all dressed as mascots. Groom found it absolutely hilarious. Bride, not so much.
Oh, brilliant. What about the actual races themselves? Because you know what? I've played football on like staff teams and stuff with you. You're not slow.
I am these days. But no, I was. I could handle myself, but used to turn up to these races, and it was really serious. There was some huge money being bet on it. So I mean, we had one incident where I used to finish half decent. I'd win money for people, but we had an incident where we'd gone down we'd played Cheltenham on the Saturday, and the race was on the Sunday, and we'd gone down and we took 2 suits, just because I wanted one for the game, and then we had the new suit built, so we took that for the actual race, and it was a little bit lighter, so I was like, okay, this is going to be a bit easier. Obviously, we'd gone out, we'd been drinking after the game, and do you know John Beard?
Yeah.
Beardy. The Beardy bus, yeah, everyone knows Beardy. So he'd come down with us for the weekend, Mike Bentley and all them. We were on it. We'd gone down. There must have been about 10 of us gone down. We decided it'd be funny if we could get somebody else to put the other suit on and wait halfway down the course and dive out and maybe take somebody out, because it'd be a bit of a laugh. Now, of all the people you're going to pick, you don't pick the fattest lad. We picked Beardy. To be honest, I think he's the only one stupid enough to have done it. So we've got down there. So he's waiting like it's 220 yards. He's waiting like 100 yards down the line. I don't get how, but he hid dressed as a 7-foot owl, and he's hid at the side of the track. So we've set off. I'm giving it some, bombing it down, and there's somebody in front of me, and I was keeping up with him, but then Beardy just dives out and just takes this mascot out. Not the one who's winning, though, which would have been the obvious thing to do. No, takes out one who's in like 4th place. Anyway, across the line at 2nd place. They paid out. I know my Bentley made a killing that day. He put quite a bit of money on me, because I'd been bigging myself up the night before, going, I'm having this tomorrow. I've put money on me in top 3. So anyway, they paid him out, and then they disqualified me for the fact they said I cheated because I dived out and then ran the rest. But they had the video; they could see that it wasn't me. I was the one who run the full way. But mine got paid out, so that was it. Carnage for the weekend.
Something that we've spoken about in the past that I can't get my head around at all. I'm going to say a word to you now, and I want you to explain the concept of it, and exactly what it involves. And that word is furries.
Okay. How can I explain it? I've got to bear in mind that my mum's probably going to watch this clip. Furries are, I won't just say females, there are male furries as well. And the people who've got a fixation with characters, so people who dress up as furry characters, and you get them more than what you'd actually imagine. When you go to these big mascot events, you tend to see them. And most of them, we avoid them. But there have been a couple of instances where I've been cornered by a furry on more than one occasion. I made it very clear that they needed to leave the room, but she made it very clear she wasn't there for an autograph. Yeah, but just very strange people. I don't get it. It's only every now and again I meet people who are scared of mascots, but these people are absolutely fixated with them. It's unhealthy.
And we're sticking with I made them leave the room. Nothing to do with me. We're sticking with that, are we?
Mate, if you saw her, you'd understand. She could have crushed me.
One of the things we have to talk about that Chaddy became famous for, but probably a personally questionable moment for you, Carlisle away and the push bike incident. For anyone not familiar, I think in fact, just talk us through what happened at Carlisle that day.
Again, Mike Bentley's involved. As always, whenever there was trouble with Chaddy at away game, Mike Bentley was involved with his, just try some of this Coke. This is all right. Coca-Cola, by the way, just to be clear, which had copious amounts of Red Bull in it as well and things like that, and vodka. He'd mix drinks and then just give you some. So we'd gone on the Beardy bus, set off quite early, gone for a few beers in a pub, drinking on the coach, and I just said, I'm not going to overdo it because I've got the game, and I like to be a little bit merry, but not too much. Got to the ground, and I'd clearly had too many vodka Red Bulls, and I was high as a cat. I was just running round, just seeing what trouble I could cause, and I still don't know to this day why, but there was a BMX at the side of the pitch. Someone's since told me it was one of the ball boys who'd come on his BMX, but why he left it out in the open when an idiot like me is running around in the owl outfit. So back in the day, I used to be all right on a BMX. I used to be able to do tricks, do a bit of racing. I was all right. I was quite confident. But usually when I was a kid, I wasn't drinking and just going off my head. So I decided I was going to get on this bike, wearing a pair of football boots. It's on like a side of Carlisle's pitch is like gravel. So I'd set off and it was a bit slow. But I thought, I know what will make the crowd laugh. I'll pull a wheelie. So off I went up with a wheelie, but I felt myself going. So I put my ankle down and it went over and I felt it go. I was just like, okay, this isn't good. So I sat down on the floor. I fell off the bike. I'm sat down on the floor and somebody come over to, I think it was St. John's ambulance, come over to me. And they went, all right, you're getting up. And I just went, no, I've done my ankle. So they went, well, get up and we'll go. And I went, honestly, I'm putting no weight on this. It's gone. So then they called over, they had a couple of ambulance people there, a couple of paramedics. They come over and they just said, right, what we'll do, we'll just take your head off and we'll give you some gas and air and we'll get... And I said, nah, there's a code within the Mascot. Never talk, never take your head off. They're the two main rules. So they said to me, right, well, we'll put you on this trolley. They said, lifting me up, I had to grin and bear it, lifted me up in an ambulance, took me to Carlisle General, stuck me in this room. So I'm sat there with the curtains around. Then I still not took the head off. I'm like, no, I can't, because these kids walking past. And this doctor just opens these curtains and just went, what the hell is this? So I had to explain to him what I've done. Anyway, did all check. So basically I just said, look, do what you need to do, but I've got to get back to get on this bus. Otherwise, I'm in deep crap. So they basically, a few shots of morphine or whatever it was, stuck me in a taxi and off I went back to the ground. Met up with all the lads after, got on the bus. coming back, they decided that they wanted to go to a pub, and I don't remember any of it, but I've been told I 7-balled somebody at pool while hobbling round on crutches. I think it was Phil Higgins that I 7-balled, so I've been told.
See, in my mind, you're doing that while still dressed as Chaddy.
What, the pool?
Yeah.
But no. I could do it. The only thing I've never tried while as Chaddy that I'd really like to do was playing golf. The only thing I've never done. I'd probably kill someone, to be honest.
See, I've put that outfit on more than one occasion, and the head, you won't be able to see anything. One of the big things, so in a potentially personally embarrassing moment, I was Chaddy once. You couldn't do it. And I was at the ground, and it was about 2:30, and Sean Jarvis came up to me and said, "Put this suit on, Wayne can't be here." And I was like, now, I wasn't in the same physical condition that you were in. And it was a game against Blackpool, and there was scheduled to be a race at half time. And all I heard all the way through was these kids going, "What's wrong with Chaddy? What's up with Chaddy?" Because I came second and I couldn't see a thing, lost the race by a mile, and everyone thought that Chaddy had really some sort of bad incident. All the stuff you did on match days with other mascots and the races, did you have to sort of prepare for them? Because it isn't easy putting that head on and being able to sort of see what's going on.
You get used to it, but it's really hard. I can tell you now, probably your biggest issue on the day was sweat in your eyes and you couldn't see anything. And it burns. Am I right?
I'd say yeah, but I wasn't moving quick enough to sweat.
Yeah, that was the biggest issue. So you just sweat that much. I mean, it's all right on middle of winter when you can see everyone in the crowd and they're all like they're shaking, and I'm absolutely toasty in here. But summer, start of season, and obviously, I always had this thing that as soon as I put that suit on, I switched like that, and I just turned into an absolute nut job. Sprinting round, I thought I was 12-year-old, sprinting round, top speed, fast as I could, just burn myself out. But yeah, you had to be ready for it. So I always made sure that I take on like a litre at least of water before I got in the suit, because otherwise I have passed out in the suit before now when I've not took on the water, and you overdo it a little bit, and in the heat it's ridiculous, but you don't want to take the head off. But a lot of people might have noticed when I used to go walking past the Chaddy end, I'd always go into the first aid box, and that was where I'd go in to take my head off if I felt like I was getting a bit too hot. Just get a bit of a breather, water on my face, back on, and then back out again. But you can't see anything. So because the beak's there, all that you can see is there. So when I used to do keep ups with the ball, I couldn't actually see where the ball was. You just got to judge that. You can feel it. But yeah, you always had to prepare. If you just went out and just walked out in the suit and ran around like an idiot, you'd either pull your hamstring, knack your ankle, or you just pass out from heat.
Well, yeah, it definitely had its as it has. So as Chaddy, you were actually an Oldham fan as well. So what games stand out for you from a fan point of view of having been involved and having been Chaddy?
There's a few that stand out straight away. So the City game, the atmosphere at that, and the fact that we had our mascots there. It was just everything. It was the build up to the game. It was. It's hard to explain. So when you Chaddy, you go out onto the pitch, and you get the crowd cheering at you and stuff, and then the away fans are booing you and stuff, and it's just you try your best to wind them up. I used to do it with if Millwall come and played us, you try and wind up the Millwall fans. The City one was it was like next level. And the only time we really ever got close to that atmosphere that I felt stood on the pitch and what you experienced before the game was probably Blackpool in the playoffs, but away. So we'd gone to Bloomfield Road, and they just built that, what do they call it? The Gene Kelly stand, where it had no roof on it, and all the Oldham fans were there. And when I walked out the tunnel and all the fans were singing, the atmosphere, oh my God, because you've got all the Blackpool fans around you, but all you could hear was the Oldham fans in front of you. It was crazy. But the City game's the one that stands out. It was just everything about the day. It was just, it was immense, that.
We mentioned your relationship with players. Did you have much dealings with any of the managers that you were that were Chaddy when you were there? Many dealings with the gaffers?
Yeah, I've had dealings with most of them, to be honest. Some of them, you knew, just didn't want to know. They weren't interested. Ronnie Moore definitely wasn't interested. Dave Penny, no, just don't bother going near him. But then other ones, so Paul Dickoff he was cracking. He'd always let on. And obviously he had his lads who used to come out and, they'd come out and have a kickabout with Chaddy before the game every week. Richie Wellings, he got it. But I've known of Richie for quite a while. I used to go out with his cousin. So when he was early days and he was coming through the ranks at United, I'd been and watched him a few times. But yeah, I got on cracking with him. Shez got it, but I got on more with Shez when it came to like the fans games and stuff like that. But yeah, he got what it was about, being Chaddy. Some of them did, some of them really got it, and some of them you just avoid them like the plague.
You mentioned the fans games there. Now I've played in a couple of them with you, and talk to us about what happened between you and Shez at a fans game.
The free kick.
Yeah.
So I was playing. I think I was on the right wing that day, and Rob Stockford was in net, and I'd had a bit of bet with him. I don't know what it was, but I always tended to either score in fans games or I'd set up a couple of goals, and I'd already set up a couple of goals on that game, and then we had a free kick about 25 yards out. The ball gets put down, and Shez has got the ball, and he's put it down. So I just went, right, go on, move out, I'll have this. And he looked at me. He went, go on. So I said, I'll have it. And he went, I'll have it. And Tommy Wright were playing, and he just went, let Shez have it. So I went, no, I'll have this. So anyway, takes a free kick, and he whips it over the top of the wall, bottom corner, and Rob's just flapping about, tried to catch, totally missed it. So anyway, referee blows a whistle for encroachment or whatever, and he said, take it again. So I went, right, give it in, I'll have this one. And he just went, no. He said, it's going in the exact same place. So I was a bit pissed off that I didn't get to take it, but he put one in the exact same place, and I just went, yeah, great goal. Walked off proper sulking because I didn't get to take it.
And the other fans game story, there was one year it got quite serious. I think Simon Corney had given the fans team a 3-0 head start and told them that if they won with their 3-goal head start, that he would personally give everyone their money back. And that was under Paul Dickoff. And Paul Dickoff took that game pretty seriously, didn't he?
The pair of them did. You were playing in that, weren't you?
Yeah.
Do you remember the team talk before the game?
I'll let you.
So obviously you're interacting with all the fans beforehand, and Simon's walking around and he's shaking people's hands, thanking them for coming, and saying, if you win, you can have your money back. And he was well, you know what he's like. He was such a quiet, gentle guy, weren't he? He just walked around and always had a grin on his face. And then we walked in, and he gave the first team talk, and the first words were, "There's not a fucking chance they're winning their money." He said, "We hammer them," and then he just passed it across to Paul, and Paul Dickoff just starts going on about absolutely nail them. First tackle, hit them as hard as you can, make sure we win. Nobody comes off this pitch, and he was an absolute animal. The half-time team talk, I think we'd conceded one goal. I think we were 4 or 5-1 up. And he was ripping us to bits about the one goal. But that game, the one thing I remember that game, he was screaming for the ball. And as it come off, flicked it over the top, and he hit one on the volley, straight across into the top corner. And after the game, he come up and he went, decent through ball. That'll do me. I'll take that.
See, I had slightly different interactions with Paul on that game. So when I came, I started on the bench. I came on up front, and Paul was playing just behind me, and I was still in my chubbier days then. And as I come on, I said to him, right up front with you, and he said, right, I'm going to make you run for everything. So the first 2 balls he's knocked to me, he's knocked them 5 yard, 10 yard in front. Clearly, I've not got them. And I look round and he's laughing his head off. So the 3rd ball, I stay stood still, feet planted. He knocks it 10 yard past me, and I used to end up screaming at him, Gaffer, I'm stood here. Are you that bad that you can't pass a ball 10 yards? And he just sort of looked at me and was like, yeah, all right, fair enough. The other thing from that game is it was the end of the previous season, and that was the day that we'd signed Matt Smith. And Matt Smith was being shown around the dressing room and introduced to us all before that game. So his first experience at Latics was watching the staff team.
Watching some overweight has-beens try to kick a bag of air around.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. So you mentioned winding fans up. Were there any clubs that you loved coming to Boundary Park? Or were there any times at Boundary Park that you thought, I might have gone too far here?
There was a team right at the start when I first started being Chaddy, and Swansea it was, and they'd filled the away end, and they were loud, but I'd gone over and was winding them up, and then as when they used to play the music for the teams to come out, I'd go sprinting off. So as the music's come on, I've turned and gone sprinting, and it was only about, it's got to be a week after, someone mentioned to me about this YouTube clip, and I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And they said, that guy that you ran away from, the Swansea fan. I went, not a clue. So I looked it up, and one of the fans had jumped over the fence and come onto the pitch. You know me, I'd have just gone over and wrestled with him, because that would have been hilarious. But I didn't know, so I was giving him a bit of banter, and it built. It built from there. There was quite a bit of abuse towards me, and it got to the point where we'd gone down. So Swansea's mascot he's a dead nice guy, but you won't cross him. He was a bit of an animal, and he was known for he could handle himself. So we'd gone down for a game. We'd gone down to Swansea, and I thought we were going to meet up with him because I'd not seen him in ages. When we got down there, some young lad had been put in the suit, and Swansea's mascot is a big swan with massive neck, and we'd had a penalty shootout at half time, and I saved the penalty, and he ran up and ragged me in the face. So I weren't best pleased with him. So I jumped up, and he starts giving it all this. So I'm not going to punch you in Thingy's face. I know where your face is going to be. So give him one right in the neck. And he ran up. So that caused quite a bit of carnage between me and Swansea, and the other one was Blackpool, obviously. It weren't the same lad as what they'd had the issues with, but Gary, the lad who used to do it, I'd gotten all right with him, but they'd come to Boundary Park, and it was only mid-season game, and he weren't really playing for anything, I don't think. But I'd had a load of issues. I had physio on my knee, and it was my first game back, and I just said to him, when we were getting changed beforehand, I said, I'll have a bit of a wrestle, do whatever, because most of them are scripted. You know, we say, right, we'll have a bit of a fight later on. But I just said to him, just don't touch me knee, because it's really sore. Anyway, gets in front of his fans, and obviously he's got a bit G'd up, and we're doing sumo wrestling, and he goes to grab me, but he grabbed my leg, and I lost, and I'm screaming at him in the suit, but I ripped his head off in front of his fans, and his head come off, and someone videoed it. So I think that clip's available somewhere. But I ran off, and I was like, oh, and he wouldn't speak to me for weeks. I just thought, no, I've overstepped them out there, because the number one rule is don't take your head off. Yeah, he weren't happy with me.
And I remember from sort of my days working at the club that occasionally, for commercial and sponsorship purposes, we would bring other mascots in that weren't necessarily football mascots. So we had, I remember Green Care, we had a someone in a rat suit.
Yeah.
Screwfix, we had the ridiculous Screwfix calendar catalogue mascot.
Yeah.
And then there was one, I think, a piece of toast or something like that.
No, I really injured that person.
Yeah, I know. That's why I brought it up.
So obviously they didn't get changed in the same room as me, so I didn't know who it was. But it was for, I think it was to do with heating with Oldham Council.
It was toasty or something like that, wasn't it?
Like that. Yeah, it was to do with keeping warm over winter. So this giant piece of toast is walking around with arms out the side, and got a minder with this piece of toast. Anyway, bit of banter, and they were kicking a ball at me, so I just thought, you're having it. So as they're walking around, they were walking along the edge at Chaddy end, and the blue strip along the edge, although it's like rubber, it's pretty hard. So I thought it'd be funny to just crouch down in front, because I knew that whoever it was in that suit couldn't see me. So I've crawled across the floor and crouched down, and this piece of toast goes down with a thud. I didn't realise that they couldn't get their hands out in front of them because they're out here. So anyway, I've gone off to get changed at half time, and when I'm coming back through, there's a girl sat in the players' lounge, and she's got a piece of tissue over it. I was like, "Shut up!" And then someone pointed out that was a piece of toast, and I broke a tooth where she'd hit the floor. So I'll be honest, I felt really bad about that. Yeah, but it's probably your fault for bringing in a piece of toast. Certainly not mine.
Definitely not yours, mate. Definitely not yours. One of the aspects of Chaddy, in a slightly sort of more serious point, one of the big aspects of Chaddy is a lot of the community work, quite a lot of which goes unnoticed, and that was something that I know from my time at the club that you sort of really embraced as well.
Yeah, the club did, the football in the community did a massive amount of work, and to be honest, it could have been a full-time job doing that, going around to the schools and stuff. Thankfully, Wendy and the team down there, they used to, because of my job, and I wasn't always available, they'd always offer for me to go and be Chaddy, but there was times when I couldn't, so they'd have somebody else. The amount of kids that I bumped into though and go, "Chaddy, you were at my school this week," and give it a thumbs up, and then they go, "Buddy, where are you?" and kids just pick up that it's not the actual Chaddy, whether it's the size thing or just the way that I used to walk and stuff like that. But I used to try and do as much as I could. But yeah, there was also the amount of work that they got inundated with for Chaddy. He used to be here, there, and everywhere, to be honest.
So we always ask everyone that comes on the podcast the same few questions to wrap up. So without thinking about the answers too much, best player at Oldham during your time at the club?
It's between two for me. So it would be Paul Warne, just for the fact that the way he used to defend from the front. Doing all my coaching, I used to tell the kids the same thing. Whoever's up front, you start the ball rolling. And he just used to chase everything down. That guy had more energy than anyone I've ever seen. He was unbelievable. But I think pipping him to the post for me would be Richie Wellings. He was an unbelievable player, and he made the game look so easy. But he had that fight. He was like a young Shez, weren't he? Just had that fire and wanted to win everything. I'd like to say when he retired and came back to do like the fans games and charity games, he'd calmed down. He was an absolute terror. I ended up playing against him. Probably one of the last games that I did, one of the last charity games, and I was on opposite team to him, and I nutmegged him. I thought he was going to kill me. He called me a cheeky. See you next Tuesday. And he gave me a look, and I thought, I'm not doing that again. He's an animal.
Okay. I think you've covered this. I think you're going to say Man City, but I'll ask the question anyway. Best game while you were at the club?
Yeah, it's got to be City. Another good one was do you remember when we did the game against Leeds and they had the pink kit on?
Yeah.
For that again, that was the atmosphere around that was cracking. Although that night I got sent off by the linesman, the referee got a complaint from the linesman that he was mixing me up with somebody, one of the players. So I got told I needed to leave. So I ended up having to go into the stand. But that was a cracking atmosphere. But the City one was just head and above beyond any other game.
Okay. Worst game from your time at Oldham?
No, I wasn't. No, I was. Yeah, I was Chaddy at this game. When we got beat, was it 7-0 by Milton Keynes? When Shez got sacked, didn't he? That's probably worse because I'd gone down there and it was a cracking day. Milton Keynes were fantastic with mascots. What's the owner called?
Pete Winkleman.
He's calling chat. Yeah, looked like Shellcatcher. Off Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. But he used to look after mascots. He personally took me on a full tour before that game of the stadium. And it was great setup. And the atmosphere, it was fantastic. But then we got absolutely drubbed. And I'd gone down with John Curley, Chick, as everyone knows him as. So we probably got down there in about an hour and a half, knowing he's driving. But the drive back was just the quietest we've ever been between us. It was an awful game to see us get picked to pieces like that. And I felt for Shez that he ended up getting sacked after that because just one game, really, weren't it?
And so we've gone from worst game. So the final question, the same question we ask everyone to wrap up. Your best memory from your time at the club?
Best memory. So, best memory personally in at the actual football probably got to be the AC Tyre Challenge.
Yes.
I was the only one who got the ball through there, much to the annoyance of players because they were all trying it, and I tried it every game. I'd have a few attempts every game, but just pinged it through. But it got a lot of good publicity for Wayne as well over at AC Tyres, so it worked. That's what it was about. That's the best one personal. Away from actual games, it's got to be. There's a lady called Anita who her son Adam was a big Latics fan. You'd have seen him at games. He was a little lad that got hit by a car many years ago and left him in a pretty bad way. And Anita did loads of stuff to try and raise money. He was always doing stuff for Manchester Children's Hospital. And she asked me to go down one Christmas Eve dressed as Chaddy to give out a load of presents. And I'd done stuff for Oldham Hospital and helped them to get new TV room and stuff, raising money for that. But this one was just different level. And do you know Alex Marsh?
Yeah.
From Delph? He used to live in Delph. Yeah, so Alex had kindly offered to drive me down. So he picked me up from my house dressed as Chaddy, drove me down, and we went round and we just, honestly, I was in tears in the suit because just seeing some of the kids who were so happy to see this giant owl coming walking around just handing presents out, that's without doubt the best bit. But the funny side to that was when we were coming back, we were driving back Christmas Eve, driving through Manchester City Centre, me still in the owl outfit, hanging out the window, just waving at everybody. And some guy outside Sawyer's Arms on Deansgate.
All right.
He's got a beer in his hand, he's smoking, and he's just stood there, and he's at the lights, and he just looked up and he went, "Hello, Mr. Owl." He just looked at his beer, put it down, and just walked off. And that guy's probably been in trauma ever since. But yeah, that whole day was cracking.
That is a fantastic place to leave it. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us and for looking back at your time in the owl suit.
No worries. Cheers for inviting me. It's been good going down memory lane.
That was episode 14 of the Chaddy Enders. A big thank you to Wayne for joining us and to telling us a few things that happened underneath the mask. Probably a good job he was wearing a mask for quite a few of those. A big thank you to Luke, who edits this podcast and brings it all together and does stuff that I am incapable of doing. Also, again, a big thank you to AC Tyres, to NFL Weekends, and to Eden Creative for all their support in making the podcast happen. If you want to get in touch, we are on Facebook and Twitter at the Chaddy Enders. Please do feel free to drop us a message. Next week, we'll be bringing local legend and a player that played 308 times for Latics over an 11-year period. And very much looking forward to this one, looking back on the glory days with Andy Barlow. So very much looking forward to that. That will be out next Thursday. So thank you very much for listening and have a fantastic week. Cheers.